and welcome again. Last time we spoke of the three-letter agencies hand-passing the ball to each other, as none of them really wants to be the one holding the parcel when the music stops and the trials for treason begin. This week, the queue begins to resemble a conga line, as the AEC, Australian Electoral Commission, joins in with a penalty notice for my refusal to participate in the recent phony election. Of course, unless they've seen my videos, highly unlikely, they don't know yet that I refused to vote, only that for some reason no record of activity was recorded against my name on the electoral roll. So I've been invited, there's that lovely euphemism again, to submit my explanation on the letter/form shown here. Once again, there's no name attached to this putatively imperious command, so on ringing the office to discover to whom the notices should be addressed, I was given the usual runaround of statements to the effect that I should just address them to the job title stated on the letter, and they would reach the relevant person. When I explained that I was sending lawful notices, and that they had to be addressed to a name, not a title, and that refusal to disclose the name meant that their behaviour was ipso facto unlawful and rendered their communications unlawful, the branch manager reluctantly disclosed their Christian name. When I asked for the surname, I was told that wouldn't be revealed for privacy reasons. I explained that when one made unlawful demands on private people and a file was constructed detailing such transgressions, that eventually the rights of privacy were either waived by the offender's own actions or could only be retained by ceasing and desisting the offences. Because this officer clearly has no idea of the seriousness of their actions and the potential consequences, and had no interest in being informed thus, I enclosed a covering letter with the notice of conditional acceptance. We can see this here. The first paragraph states clearly that any claim of authority must be substantiated. The second explains that there is a vast difference between the way correct law is initiated and the false and deceptive machinations of treasonous regimes which seek to enslave people and subject them to dictatorship. It also informs the person that there will be notable personal disadvantages if they follow their current path. Then follows a section which was included in my response to Officer Halfname of the TGA, raising certain questions which only someone with a seriously compromised sense of personal well-being or sadly misplaced sense of loyalty would ignore. Finally, there's a reference to the 1571 Treason Act, which specifies some severe penalties for alleged Crown agents who overstep the mark. There are 4 articles from Magna Carta 1215 which seriously disturb these illegitimate government agencies. These are numbers 24, 39, 40 and of course 61. Article 24 states that no sheriff, constable, coroners or other royal officials are to hold lawsuits that should be held by the royal justices. In other words, cases that should be heard by qualified judges are not to be prosecuted by officers in the lower echelons of the judiciary, lest there be miscarriages of justice. Article 39 says, no free man shall be seized or imprisoned or stripped of his rights or possessions or outlawed or exiled or deprived of his standing in any other way, nor will we proceed with force against him or send others to do so, except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land. We can see instantly that these types of demands being made upon us are not the result of proper judgments resulting from due process, and very few, if any of them, are the result of any actions which cause harm to or victimise others. Article 40 stipulates that to no one will we sell, to no one deny or delay right or justice. Is there anyone at all who thinks that the legalese system of justice even remotely approaches the standard laid down here? And of course, we should all be familiar by now with the contents of Article 61. These 4 articles have been the focus of centuries of attempt to circumvent and disembowel the spirit of Magna Carta 1215, and the types of cases we are discussing in these videos are archetypal examples of the trashing of these articles. But with the invocation of Article 61, we are finally able to lawfully stymie these adulterators of the common or constitutional law. There is no more important work than securing freedom for us and our descendants. No one should be doubting that. To say or do otherwise is to deny our very essences as human beings. As usual, we will see what responses we get from this business. One rewarding thing that our group did this week was to get together for an hour or so to enjoy a coffee and chat and compile some supporting letters for each other as we rebuff our individual oppressors. Here is an example of such a supporting letter. These are not a compulsory part of the notices process, but as a group we felt more close-knit, and the presence of letters of support from several people should add weight to the pushback against the robbers/confidence tricksters. The purpose of this letter is to underline that treason is not to be taken lightly and can be penalised by either the duly sworn police officers or any individuals standing under true constitutional law. A most encouraging story has emerged regarding the South Australian Electoral Commission. They sought to impose a similar penalty for not voting on one of our group members over their recent state election. Here's the story in our man's own words. Quote, "I would like to share with the group my experience at the South Australian Electoral Commission. I went into the office today in the city to pay the second stage of the expiation notice under duress, as the 5-notice process had been ignored. I explained to the customer service representative that I would pay under duress and keep the expiation notice and receipt for use at the upcoming trial of the Electoral Commissioner for High Treason. I also used the constitutional caution card as a way of explaining what the issue is about. A second worker came out and I explained that by paying under duress, I can claim for my losses at a future date. I also read the constitutional caution card as a way of explaining my standing in law. The Electoral Commission worker decided to waive the fine that I was willing to pay under duress as I had written on the expiation notice. I hope that this information might be beneficial to others." End quote. There are a few useful points to note here. First, we can see that these agencies like to refer to the public as customers. Even the ATO, which it was recently revealed has never existed as even a legal entity, has the gall to pull this stunt. But of course, if people don't object to it, it fits in perfectly with the deceptive superstition these fakes constantly implant in the minds of people that our relationship with them is one of consent, when really it is naked robbery. Secondly, we learn that the phrase under duress can be a powerful deterrent when its implications of future punishment are explained. We should keep in mind that people working in alleged government departments, especially in the lower echelons, are happy to be there because it means that generally they lack the drive to succeed in business in open competition with highly motivated people. Concomitant with this attitude is a desire to avoid any semblance of stress, conflict or disapproval from upper echelons of their organisations or any other bodies to which they obediently ascribe authority, such as uniform-wearing officials. But the most important by far is the lesson that by doing the right thing and standing up for our lawful rights under Article 61, that we can repulse these grossly improper demands without having to go into court, and thereby establish precedents with our relationships with fake agencies. The best way I've found of doing this is to always bear in mind that these people represent corporations, they're companies, and we don't have to deal with any company unless we consent. Of course, they need to be palmed off if they become heavy-handed, but we have the law on our side, thanks to Article 61. By contrast with the foregoing example, how insipid is the person who, being as aware of the law as we are, says something like, well, the fine's only $100 and sending the notices, maybe 2 lots of them, is going to cost me $60 to $80, so it's easier and less trouble to just pay up. Submission to unlawful corporate-issued legislation is voluntary slavery. Our grandchildren are going to know about this in due course, and we will have to answer to them for how we behaved when we became aware of it. By such spinelessness, we enable the progressive erosion of not only our own liberties, but those of our descendants as well. It is impossible to see how anyone could take pride in such cowardice, for how else can it be described? We all know from our child experiences that whenever we accede to the demands of bullies, it merely emboldens them. They realise they got away with the latest infraction, so how much further can they push things? That is the way the minds of thugs, narcissists and standover people work. They will never stop until they achieve total domination, because then their survival in the world is assured. They won't have to take any risks or go to work, because they will have an army of compliant slaves to obey their every whimsical edict. And their edicts are indeed whimsical. Ayn Rand pointed out decades ago that no matter how assiduously people rush to comply with the orders of tyrants, they will at a moment's notice reverse those orders. That may be due to the realization that their current orders aren't producing the desired results, but sometimes it's simply because they feel like it and they enjoy seeing people grovel. The exercise of power thus granted is its own reward for the despot. Power, as Lord Acton says, corrupts, and the more of it is granted, the greater will be the corruption engendered. It is a dysfunctional moral compass indeed that sees no further than the immediate comfort of the moment, irrespective of the harm this inflicts on innocent victims of our acts or omissions. If people are unwilling to resist such evil, they fully deserve to be enslaved. But that leaves unanswered the question, do their children or grandchildren? Can there be any clearer evidence that there are things far more important than the mere pursuit of or attainment of personal temporary gratification? Thank you for watching.